Good evening, fight fans. Mike's MMA Picks here with a fight evening quick card breakdown for UFC Beijing. We're headed to China, and we've got Curtis Blades against Francis Ngannou. A lot of young Chinese fighters on this card. Makes for an exciting event from a DraftKings perspective. We'll walk through each fight. We've got 12 fights. We'll open the card with Sumu Derji, and he's taking on Luis Smolka. We're very familiar with Luis Smolka, who's had a number of fights in the UFC. Smolka has had some issues with the mental game. He's had issues on the scale. He's had issues with some strength deficiencies. He may get out grappled, but he also is very scrambly. So this fight has the potential to put up a lot of DraftKings points. Sumaderji is a bit of an unknown. We have limited tape on him. He's a young kid. So it's either Smolka with a quick submission victory or Sumaderji may pull this out on the feet. He's willing to take risks. So is Smolka. So there may be a few scrambles here, but if it does hit the ground, Smolka should roll. Smolka comes in at -175 currently, and Sumaderji is at +165. You got 7,400 for Sumaderji from a DraftKings pricing perspective, and Smolka is a pretty hefty 8,800 though. If he does win, he should be on the optimal lineup as far as I'm concerned. But Sumaderji, this is one of those fights, you know, you could, if you lose out on this first fight, you could have a pretty shitty rest of the evening. So be careful out there. But I will be playing Sumaderji in a number of lineups, primarily because Smolka has had some serious issues closing the show out. Next up, we've got Kevin Holland against John Phillips. Kevin Holland, highest priced fighter on the card at 9,500. John Phillips comes in at 6,700. One of the things about Holland that concerns me is he likes to toy with his opponents. And Phillips, if Holland does toy with him, he could be playing with fire here. Phillips does possess significant power. I believe it was Charles Bird who made easy work of him on the ground in Phillips's last fight. So he'll be looking to come out guns blazing again. I suspect that's kind of how he always fights. But at 33 years of age, I think it's going to be hard to teach an old dog new tricks here. And this is a middleweight fight. Kevin Holland is your -500 favored. Holland's 26 years of age. I want to see how this fight plays out on the inside. I do suspect this fight will end inside the distance, and Holland should roll here pretty easily. But he's got to be careful and not play with his food because, again, Phillips does have those heavy hands. All right, we'll get into the third fight on this 12-fight card. I'm doing a quick breakdown here, so we're not going to get very deep into the intricacies of each fight, but I just wanted to give you an overview and my takes on them. We've got Yan Zhalinan against Siri Kondo. Kondo is the severe underdog here at +435. She got smoked in her last fight, and I'll make this very quick here, but Zhalinan should roll at 9,400, though it's a strawweight fight, and I'm concerned that Zhalinan may not go for the finish. I think Wei Lee Zing is a better option. I I know Aguilar has only been finished once in her career, but at 36 years of age for Aguilar, and this being a showcase fight for Zhang, in my opinion, I think she's a better play. But Zhao Nin, 9,400. I think we'll see lower ownership on her. This is a hometown fight, so looking forward to see this one. Next up, we've got Ping Yuan Liu against Martin Day. Martin Day, we know him from the Contender Series. He lost a controversial decision, but it was a unanimous decision. He got stuck on the bottom, and one of my fears in this fight, I know Martin Day's 7,300 here, and he's a plus 205 underdog, but that could happen again. He's a I don't want to say great striker, but his striking looks pretty good. The problem is he going to have the space to strike? I don't know if we're going to see that happen here. If he does have space to strike, Ping Wen Liu does make mistakes, both in the grappling department and on the feet. So there is potential for Day to capitalize on that. But the other thing is Ping Wen Liu, Ping Wen Liu has an 11-5 record, so he's not some all-star, but he is training at a great camp, and this is a home fight for him. Martin Day's making the trip across the pond. Ping Wen Liu, 8,900. Odds are slowly closing on this fight. They're tightening up. I believe Ping Wen Liu is now a minus 185 favorite. So Martin Day, 7,300, maybe worth that price tag. Problem is, he just may not have the opportunity to strike. So be careful out there. But I'm going to roll with, you know what, I'm picking Martin Day with the upset here. Then we've got Wei Lee Zing against Jessica Aguilar. As I mentioned earlier, Wei Lee Zing is my most confident pick on the card. I mean, she's also a minus 525 favorite now. Wei Lee Zing, 29 years of age. This is a strawweight fight. Jessica Aguilar, 6,900, plus 450 underdog. She's the grizzled veteran, though I think her lack of speed is going to catch up to her. I know she's going to try to grapple, but she, man, Wei Lee Zing in her debut when she took on Danielle Taylor, she looked really good. It's hard to look good against Danielle Taylor, and I saw a lot of promise in Zhang. She's also very active, so I'm going to be paying up for her in most of my lineups. That should be a fabulous fight. And don't be surprised if Zhang is able to get the finish here. We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, next up, we've got the most debated card or fight on the card from a Twitter perspective. We've got Hugh Yazhong against Rashad Coulter. Hugh Yazhong, 7,800. He's only 23 years old. Another fighter that we've got limited footage on him. He's still evolving. This is a light heavyweight fight, so Rashad Coulter is dropping down for this fight. And Coulter, he missed weight today, came in at 208 pounds. I suspect he busted his ass to get down to 205 and couldn't make it. But Coulter, he's gotten his ass kicked in every fight we've seen. Man, Taivasa steamrolled him. Chase Sherman, he had to fight through a lot of adversity, but won that fight. I suspect both of these fighters are going to come out a bit tentative very early because Coulter has to know his gas tank isn't the best, and then someone's going to make a mistake, and I think it's going to be Coulter. I actually think Yazhong has the ability here to finish this fight. Both fighters do. It's a -425 to close inside the distance. Problem is both of these fighters are such a low level that I don't feel confident even making a call in this fight. But Yazhong, the odds have shifted significantly in his favor, so I trust Las Vegas with that pick. So let's tentatively take Yazhong there. Next up, we have a flyweight fight in the women's division. Lauren Mueller at $9,200 is taking on Wu Yanan. Wu Yanan is 22 years old. She's a plus 340 underdog. Yanan looked horrible in her UFC debut. What I noticed from weigh-ins, I was able to watch some Asian footage because UFC didn't post the weigh-ins. She is the significantly taller fighter. Lauren Mueller, it would be advantageous for her to grapple in this fight. She's a bit of a mad dog. We know her from Dana White's Contender Series as well. This fight, from a DraftKings perspective, Mueller, it may be sneaky to play her if she is able to take advantage and get a boatload of takedowns. But for the most part, I'm going to be fading this fight, which brings us, well, my pick here would be Mueller, but there just isn't enough, there's not enough evidence for me to even suggest that Yanan can get this done. The only thing out there is she does have a 9-2 professional record. Next up, we've got Song Kanan, who has a 13-4 record, 8,300 from a DraftKings perspective, 28 years old. He is a -115 favorite, likes to keep the fight standing, taking on Alex Morono at $7,900. Morono is also 28 years of age, plus 105 underdog, coming out of Texas. Fought Jordan Mean in this last fight and didn't look good, especially on the ground, though we've seen in previous fights that he does have hands, heavy hands at that. I've done a lot of homework on this fight, and initially I was contemplating making a play on Alex Morono. I do feel comfortable taking him from a DraftKings perspective. I think he wins here, but not confident enough to make any type of wager or anything like that on it. It's a welterweight fight. Kanan's the hometown fighter, so you have to worry about the judges issuing some hometown cooking in that fight. But this is another fight where I think that Morono is going to come in here with a solid game plan. The only problem is he's got to move his head more and look out for those straight punches from Kanan, because that's how he's gotten the job done in his previous 2 UFC fights. Up next, we've got a barn burner in Li Jingliang, who is priced at $8,500. This is one of those fighters in the mid-range who's going to be very active, 30 years old, -175 favorite, taking on David Zawada. David Zawada also has a great record at 16-4, very, very active fighter for $7,700 from a DraftKings perspective, 28 years old, plus 165 underdog. Zawada, I was very impressed with his last fight against Danny Roberts, especially on short notice, coming in and looking that good. Li Jingliang has fought very well on home turf in his last fight at UFC Shanghai. Actually, he has fought since then, but Li Jianlang, I think he's gonna use his grappling, and he is going to not only want this more, but when we're transitioning from ground to standing, um, I think he's going to get the upper hand during those exchanges. I know he may not be the quickest fighter, but his will to win and also his durability are big pluses. I was able to get in on Jing Liang at -164, but I think that Jing Liang gets the job done here. David Zawada, though, for 7,700, should put up a lot of points in a loss, but you're going to need more for 7,700. All right, here we go. We've got the last three fights of the evening. We've got Song Yadam against Vince Morales. Song Yadam has been a wrecking machine since coming to the UFC. There's not only him, but other Asian fighters have had there's been some age discrepancies. So when you look on Tapology and Sherdog, etc., UFC.com, it's hard to nail down his actual age. He's been fighting for a significant amount of time. Team Alpha Male product, taking on Vince Morales, who also looked decent in his loss on the Contender Series. Song Yadam has a great price from a DraftKings perspective at 9,100. He's a -500. I think it might be -525 now favorite. So he is cruising along here. Vince Morales, 7,100, 28 years old, +435, underdog. Fight takes place at bantamweight. This should be an action fight for however long it lasts. Song Yadam knows no other way than to have action fights. The tail of the tape, both of these guys are very similar sized, but I see Song Yadam on home turf really bringing it to Morales from the opening bell, and I don't see this. I see no way this can't put up a boatload of DraftKings points. So I believe Song Yadam is going to be the highest owned fighter on the card, especially considering the way he's priced. But I think he rolls here. Next up, we have Alistair Overeem, also known as Econo Reem, against Sergey Pavlovich. Pavlovich, it's hard for me to nail down an age for him, but he's 12-0, 6'3", 238 pounds, -115 or 120 favorite, depending on which book you're at. Alistair, 8,000 on DraftKings. Pavlovich, 8,200. Overeem now, as we know, has a tremendous amount of fights. I tweeted earlier on in the week out about how I've been concerned about his well-being. I wish he would have retired after the Stipe fight. He does have very precise striking, especially early on in fights. One of my favorite fighters, but taking emotions out of this, I see Alistair getting the better of Pavlovich. Obviously, on the feet, I see that this fight is most likely taking place there. Pavlovich, from what I've seen in all of the fights I've watched, his striking defense is almost non-existent because he hasn't had to use it. He's been just walking through his opponents. That won't be the case here. The problem with rostering Overeem at $8,000 is he could get clipped at any second. I think of the Ben Rothwell fight, for instance, where Alistair Overeem was clearly the better fighter, but just failed to engage properly. But it's hard for me not to pick Alistair here. I'm going to go with Alistair Overeem at 8,000 and a plus 110 underdog. He's got to fight a very safe fight, and I suspect a lot of folks out there in the DFS community will think that this fight's going to end in the distance, and it may, but don't be surprised if Conor Reem dances around. The problem is late in rounds he starts to gas, and that's when Pavlovich may, if his corner is smart, may tell him to wait for that opportunity. But I'm picking Alistair in this fight. And then we get to the main event of the evening. Curtis Blaydes against Francis Ngannou. Wonderful matchup here. I wish I could be at this card. I missed the UFC Shanghai card by 1 week last year, and watching cards overseas is a totally different atmosphere. So we've got, believe it or not, Francis Ngannou is he's 32 years of age now. So he got into this game later than most, but as we know, he's a freak athlete. He's a plus 200 underdog. We can throw the tail of the tape out the window. We know exactly who these fighters are. The big question I have is, can Curtis Blaydes survive the early onslaught that Ngannou is going to bring to him? I think that Francis is going to come out tonight or in a few hours with a head of steam. I think that he's going to try to finish Blaydes early because he knows that he can't stop the takedowns in the latter rounds. But Curtis Blaydes, he's got all the momentum. He's got the right mindset. I mean, that doesn't help you when you get punched in the face by someone like Francis Ngannou. But I like Blaydes in this matchup. I like his potential from a DraftKings perspective at $8,700. I don't think you can get better than that. A 5-round fight, a wrestling heavy approach, someone who's going to land a significant number of strikes via ground and pound. Ngannou's got to get it done early if he's going to win this fight. One of the plays I have is Wei Lee Zing, parlayed with not Ngannou wins by decision and not John Phillips win by decision at minus 285. But I am going to roll with Curtis Blaydes here at 8,700. I think he's going to get it done in the latter rounds via ground and pound. And then I'm actually concerned for Daniel Cormier after this fight, because I really think that Blaydes is such a big guy and such a solid wrestler that I know he has some holes in his stand-up, but he could cause a lot of he could pose a lot of problems for the heavyweight division. He already has, and he's right on the cusp of getting there. So that closes things out. We're at almost 24 minutes over here. We're only a few hours from rosters being locked. You can follow me at betmma.tips as well as CapperTech, MikesMMAPicks. I'll be up watching all the fights tonight. Really looking forward to this. I know they do start early in the morning, but hey, how often do we have the opportunity to experience something like this? Once every few months, right? And it's on Fight Pass, so we have the fast pacing to look forward to. I want to wish everybody a great night and a wonderful morning. I hope everybody cashes on their plays. Remember to get those lineups in, and look out for some overlay tonight. I see a lot of contests that aren't filling up yet. I know they did make them a little bit smaller, but just keep your eye out, because last card there was an opportunity for that, and there may be tonight. So best of luck, and we'll see you next week.